Part 39 of Don't Say Schwarzenegger. In this part, we're going to go over Alberto Daniel Driz's 2018 deposition. Alberto's deposition began on March 6, 2018. He showed up alone, saying that he was representing himself because, remember, they're broke and indigent, so they can't pay the victims. So the deposition starts off, and he refuses to answer any questions from any attorneys present. And he said that he started making phone calls the night before to try to find legal representation, but he couldn't find it. So the deposition ends there and has continued 2 months later. And before I get into his deposition, I'd like to remind everybody that this deposition occurred about 8 months after the big police raid, the Beverly Hills Police Department raiding his home and finding a loaded, stolen, chambered pew-pew and illegal white powder with rolled up dollar bills next to it, among other substances in the house. So I can't find it in my notes, but this is an attorney named Sepper Umrani. He goes by Sep though. And he has been representing Alberto Driz in his other legal stuff that's been more recent. And I'm pretty sure this is the attorney that ended up showing up with him at the second part of his deposition where he finally started to answer questions. So the deposition starts off with the attorneys asking, Alberto, have you ever been deposed before? And he says, yes, about 1.5 years ago. So that would be about somewhere in 2016. And he says it was just a business matter, contract dispute. I feel like it might have been that whole lawsuit that he lost that was schmexual battery of an underage girl from Blaze Pizza, but I don't know, we can check. Alberto was born in Argentina and moved to the United States when he was 16, where he began going to Beverly Hills High School. At the time of the deposition, he said that he had a 21-year-old daughter who would be Annabella Nicole Driz. So she was 21, in 2018, which means she was about 18 at the time of the assaults, the incident that happened. And he said that Annabella lives in Manhattan Beach. So when the Drizes were all charged with GBI felonies, the contracts at Blaze Pizza say you can't be an owner here anymore, so you have to sell them, give them back, whatever. And when he was asked, were you compensated for giving back your shares to Peter Corral? His attorney told him to not answer that. Next, Alberto was asked, have you found a job since 2016? His attorney stepped in and said, don't answer that either. An interesting thing, Alberto said that even before Blaze Pizza and that whole $1 million business, he said he had prior businesses in textiles with Peter Corral, but he wouldn't go into detail what textiles means. Peter Corral was the owner, you can Google him, he was the owner of 7 for All Mankind jeans, which he sold for around $775 million. So I'd really like to know if Alberto was part of that. Next he was asked, do you and Mr. Corral still speak? He answered, I will not answer that question. Alberto then said that he's seen Peter Corral about 5+ times since the assault, less than 10. So side note, I'm not giving every detail from the depositions because there's some stuff that isn't worth putting up here, and there's other stuff that I'm going to use down the line for other reasons, as you'll find out later. So another thing that Alberto says is that he has never used the illegal white powder. That was found in his bedroom 8 months prior by the Beverly Hills Police Department. He then says that the incident at the Nice Guy was the first physical altercation he's ever had, despite his nephew Sean Driz saying under oath in his deposition, yeah, I saw my dad and uncle fight and physically injure each other in front of me when I was a kid. Then Alberto talks about that he used to play soccer in high school and football, and he was even a soccer coach, which makes me wonder if the dent from the shoe that was in my jaw for like months afterwards, if that was from him. I don't know if it was, but it was a pretty deep dent. So the night of the incident, before the Nice Guy, they were all having dinner, a private dinner in the private room at a high-end restaurant called Ago, which was like walking distance from the Nice Guy. And this man is Jimmy Esbag, and he is very, very, very close friends with Alberto Driz. Jimmy's the one that booked the room, and he's the one that paid the entire Ago bill. This is Jimmy's private jet that I found all over the internet with his initials, J.E. Group. Okay, so the rest of this video might make your brain hurt, and I apologize in advance. The next quote from Alberto is, I don't drink. The next quote after that is, I won't drink if I'm driving. And the quote after that is, I drink red wine. So next, Alberto says that his daughter, Annabella Nicole Driz, came with him, like got in the car and went with him to the nice guy from Ago. But here's the thing. At the time, she was 18 years old, and you're not allowed inside the nice guy at 18. You have to be 21 and over. So then he backtracks, and he says, oh, she never went inside. Next, Alberto says that his date left the nice guy before the fight happened, and he won't name her name. And then he leaves to speak with his attorneys, and there's an 11-minute break. So the break with his attorney ends, and he comes back, and now he decides, okay, her name is Eileen. That was her name, but he can't remember her last name. It's okay, I did a little digging. I found out her name. It's Eileen Riviera. She's the one in the green dress. By the way, according to the defendants, this entire thing began because Eileen couldn't find her valet ticket. And they say, you know, that the valet guy, the old man, started berating her about it, and then TMZ started berating them and everything. So this all began technically because of her. She was never subpoenaed. She never gave a police statement. She just kind of disappeared. Side note, Alberto was driving a Jaguar XJ, a broke guy. Just post this too because this is also Eileen Riviera with the blue Birkin and her friend with the matching white Birkin bag. If any fashionistas are out there, I'd love to know how much this blue purse is worth. Thanks. So next, Alberto Driz, the self-proclaimed non-drinker, says that he could have ordered wine, beer, or a small scotch that night, and that he was in the nice guy for no more than 30 minutes, maybe an hour. It's not true. He also claimed under oath that they left before 1 a.m., which is not true because the entire incident happened around 1:45, 2 a.m. So next, Alberto says that the TMZ cameraman, Jacob Castellan, put the camera within a half an inch from his face, and that he gently asked my nephew to please talk to him. where TMZ then responded, I can do whatever the F I want. And then he says that Sean Driz said, please stop. To which TMZ responded, F you, I'll do it anyways. Then Alberto says he saw a few people standing on the corner of West Mountain, La Cienega. That's the cross street that the nice guy is on. My attorney asked, okay, can you identify who those people were? He says, yes. And then he suddenly says, no, I saw no one there actually. Okay, so now we get to the incident. And Alberto says that Anne, me, appeared out of nowhere and choked him from behind. And that he merely just stretched his arms, and that's how I got hit. Next, Alberto said that he saw Maurice bleeding profusely from the nose and the eyes, which is interesting because we have them on camera for the next 5-10 minutes and then slowly, clearly walking under the camera, surveillance cameras, and no blood, no scratches, not even torn clothing. Next, Alberto says that he saw me and I was standing and totally fine and not bleeding. So all this happened and then I was just standing there Then, while all this is happening, it's a whole melee, okay? And he says, and even though at this point I'm unconscious, people think I'm not alive at this point, I'm on the ground. He said that the manager came out and that they had a 2-minute discussion standing there talking, which didn't happen. This is more perjury. And he says at this point, as he's having a conversation with the manager, my brother came out of nowhere and just hit him. So the manager also said, yeah, that didn't happen. And then Alberto says, and it was because of that, he just followed my brother to investigate. He's saying this because in the video, which I can't post because it's not going to work with TikTok community guidelines because it's so violent, but you can see their group closing in on Matt and pushing him into the corner to attack. Alberto said, and I quote, he only wanted to retaliate in his heart. So he then says that he begged the manager to call 911 on yourself, and then you fled the scene before the cops came? Okay. Alberto then says that his phone was lost during this melee, and that 2 months later it was found in the street. I'm going to come back to that. He then says that Alex Derville was not present, which we know he was. Right after he says that, he's shown the video of the attack, and he IDs Alex Derville in the video. Alberto also watches the entire video, which is mostly starring him and his family, and says that he can't identify himself in it. And I'm going to continue this to another part to finish the deposition of Alberto Driz. Thanks, guys.